July. It's that time of the month again. No, don't worry, not that time of the month. The time instead where we talk about books that we read in June and books that we want to read in July. These videos are always so fun to film, but it's even funner to read your comments on what you read in June and what you want to read in July. So make sure to share your wrap-ups and your TBRs in the comments below, and let's talk about books. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy talking about books. Let's jump straight into it, starting off with my June wrap-up. The first book that I read in June is one that has been highly recommended by my viewers that I do read, and I can see why. I read Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This has been on my TBR for ages, but if I'm being honest, I wasn't actually all that excited to pick it up prior to reading it. The only reason why I did read it this year is because I kept getting comments telling me to read it. I need to listen to you guys more often because I can't believe I put this off. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. That is crazy to me. I don't rate a book 5 stars very often, but I cannot explain how this book made me feel. This is my biggest surprise of the year. I didn't expect to love this book so much. Do you know what, guys? It might be up there with one of the most enjoyable books I've read. Not because the plot is enjoyable, but because I felt the most enjoyable when reading it. Is that a creepy thing to say? This is definitely the creepiest book I've ever read in my life. But I had a great time reading it. What does that say about me? I won't say too much about it here because I am uploading a reading vlog for this. I did vlog my entire process of reading this book from start to finish. If you guys have read this book, you will know about the twists and the turns that are in it. I was gasping at points. There was even a chapter in here which was very, very close to making me tear up. I can't believe that any author has the balls to write a plot this disturbing, but if any guy is gonna do it, it's gonna be Stephen King. I can't believe he went there. There were parts in this book where I thought, surely the plot isn't gonna go down that route. Oh yeah, it did. This is disturbing in the best possible way. But on top of that, not only is it a horror, creepy, scary thriller book, it also has very deep, emotional, saddening themes of grief and loss, and I think that Stephen King wrote about that beautifully. A 5-star read, and I can't wait to show you the reading vlog on this. It was an absolute journey. I wish I'd read this sooner because I had been missing out, but also I'm so glad I got to experience this for the first time, not expecting much because it blew me away. The next book that I read in June is actually my first indie author read. I don't believe I've ever read an indie author before prior to this book. This is The Summoner by Callum Rushworth. This is the author's debut novel. I mentioned in my previous TBR and wrap-up video last month that I was spending the month reading a book before its release and therefore I couldn't talk about it yet. It was this book, which means that now I can talk about it because it is released and it's available for purchase. I think it's really important that we do support indie authors because it's such an oversaturated market. How does anybody even go about trying to get a book out in there? This is a low fantasy novel set in a world where magic was once believed to be extinct, but it is slowly reawakening. And with it, a dark one is rising, raising with him even darker creatures. Oh, it's just so cool. It's so refreshing to read a fantasy novel that is like this. I feel like it's been a long time since I just read a classic fantasy novel. This feels like a classic. It's not. It was released in June, but it feels like it should be a classic. It's also based on that medieval location setting. It's set just after a rebellion has taken place. There is a new king. It's got multiple POVs. It's got lots of really intriguing characters, lots of really cool locations. There's a particular location that is based in a volcano, and there's another one that's based in a swamp, which is very, very cool. One thing that I like about this author is that he writes from both a male and a female perspective very, very well. It didn't matter who he was writing as. It felt like it was that character. I will leave the link below for you to get this. This isn't sponsored, it's not an affiliate link or anything, but it's just quite hard to find indie authors and I do think that we should support them. I know that the author is selling signed copies on their TikTok shop and you can also get it on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited as well. Let me know if you have any other indie author recommendations because this has been great. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. I still can't believe it's a debut novel and it's just really freaking cool. I can't wait for book number 2 in the series to be released. The next book that I read in June is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon, or it could be Tia Guanzon, ever so sorry for my pronunciation. Firstly, this is one of the most beautiful books I own. I absolutely love the front cover, I love the colours in it and the sprayed edges. It is a stunning, stunning book. So I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. It's an enemies to lovers romantasy. It was okay. I loved the author's description of locations and the beautiful scenery. Their description of some of these places is stunning. There's in particular a garden setting in here that the characters spend a lot of time in, and it just seems beautiful. Every single time the author is describing the flowers and the waterfalls, and it's just so stunning. And also in this world, it's set in a place where there are 7 moons, and the amount of times that the author describes the moonlight shimmering off the surfaces, and yeah, there's some really beautiful description of environments in this book. I loved that. My issue with this book was the characters and the pacing. So you start off right in the middle of action to the point where I didn't have a clue what was going on, because this is the first book, there's no leading up to anything. And I've read books before where you've started in the middle of action, but it just felt like you kind of understood what was going on. I didn't understand what was going on at the start of this book. They really do throw you in there, but then it felt very, very slow in the middle, and almost like nothing really happened. And then by the end there was a bit of action again, so it was just a bit inconsistent in terms of the pacing. I was also very, very confused by the magic system in this book. I still don't really understand how it works. I know that the female main character has magical abilities and powers that other people don't really have, and there is this thing where she feeds off of it to get her magic from, but I don't feel like that was very well described, or I don't know, maybe I was too thick to understand it. I just didn't get it. And I think that the whole purpose of the plot was her trying to find more of these things for her to feed off of her magical abilities, but I just did not get it, and that was the whole plot, so I was left confused a lot of the time. So the magic system was never really fully explained, or not in enough detail for me to kind of grasp what was going on. Also, I feel like I'm supposed to root for the main character, the female main character, but I just didn't. I didn't really connect to her. I liked the main male character, but again, I wasn't infatuated by him. He was just okay. I wasn't really rooting for any of the characters in this. I didn't really connect to any of them. Unfortunately, something was lacking, but the female and the male main character's relationship was quite fun. They're quite believable. Obviously they start off being enemies because they're on 2 different sides. It's a romantasy, so, enemies to lovers. But the female main character is prone to self-sabotage, and there's nothing I can't stand more is when you're reading about romance and one of the characters just decides to sabotage it for no reason other than that they just get in their own head and they're not really thinking things through. It's like things were going good and then she would just wreck it and ruin it all of a sudden, and I get that that happens in the real life with people, but I just can't stand reading about it. So yeah, I've decided I will read the next one because I loved the location settings, but yeah, it was meh. It was okay. And then the final book that I read in June is Fevre by George R.R. Martin. So this is the book that you guys chose for the June book club. Thank you so much if you came to the live stream to discuss this. I know we had some technical issues. My headphones just decided to give up on me. But it was actually one of the best turnouts of a book club live stream that we've ever had. And we had some incredible, insightful discussions. I honestly had the best time. Thank you so much for joining that and for discussing this book with me. I think we all agreed this is incredible. I rated this a 4.5 stars out of 5. It was very, very close to being basically perfect. I would absolutely reread this in a heartbeat. So this is obviously the author of A Song of Ice and Fire. Parts of it do feel like classic George R.R. Martin. There are elements of cruelty. There are some very disturbing parts that cause discomfort, to say the least. However, there are also parts that felt very, very different to George R.R. Martin. There were parts of this book that I was reading that didn't feel anything like how George R.R. Martin writes A Song of Ice and Fire, which I like. It gave it its own unique flair. This book is based around vampires and it is set on a steamboat in the Mississippi in the 1800s. What I will say is huge trigger warning for this book. There is some very outdated language and things that happened in the 1800s, which we can hope to dear God will never happen again. Some heavy stuff in this book. Before reading this book, I expected that I was going to find it boring because it's basically set on a steamboat for the entirety of it. However, that was not the case at all. And that is a true testament to George R.R. Martin, is that he can make a book that is set in basically one location, a boat, and make it incredible and make it so tense and so thriller. This is like a horror. It was well paced, there was action in all the right places, there were characters that you can root for, there are characters that made your blood boil with hatred. If you have not read this book, I would highly recommend it. It's obviously well written, it's George R.R. Martin, but it was just really, really cool, and it's going to take a lot for any other book in the book club to top this one. I think the only book in the book club that I enjoyed more than this is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. That is still my favourite book club book that we've picked, but this is a very close second. So those were all the books that I read in June. Now let's move on to my July TBR, so books that I'm hoping to read in July. Why Julyin'? So let's start off with the book that I am currently reading. So I started reading this at the end of June and it's trickled me over into the start of July. This is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. So this is technically the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, but I'm reading it 5th because I read the prologue, nope, I read the prequel first. So the previous book to this, Heir of Fire, was my least favourite in the series so far because it just feels very, very different to anything else. So far I'm about 300 pages into this one and I still feel the same way. The series hasn't picked up for me, unfortunately. I'm still enjoying it, don't get me wrong. It just feels very, very different to how the series initially started, but obviously you expect it to be different and for things to change when you're on the 5th book, but it just feels very, very different. Like, it doesn't even feel like the same series. A lot of the characters have changed. I just feel as well like nothing has happened in the 300 pages that I've read. It's very slow paced. There's been one big event that took about a chapter to do and then it was over and done with very quickly. I mean, the chapter I just read, they spent the whole thing just going to a market stall. Can we please speed up the plot? Like, nothing is happening. I'm just getting a little bit bored, which is such a shame because I love this series so much. I felt so connected to the characters. In particular, the female main character, I won't say much about it in case you haven't read it. I really rooted for her in the first few books. I really liked her. She was a great FMC. However, I feel like now she's going the other way. She's becoming annoying. She's becoming snappy. She's becoming rude to everybody. I do understand she's endured a lot of trauma. Without spoiling anything, she has been through an awful lot, like more than any person should have to go through. She's been through a lot of trauma, but she's just so nasty and I'm just not vibing with her character as much as I wanted to, which is a shame. I feel like her character has changed but in the wrong way. Normally I love character development, character growth. I just feel like she's going the wrong way for me, so I hope that that picks up again soon. I want to feel connected to her again. I've just kind of lost that along the way somewhere and I just need something to happen to the plot. Now I am about halfway through. I think my tracker said I was 48% of the way through, so there is still a lot left to come. I'm hoping that it picks up and that there's action at some point because I need some action. Nothing has really happened. This is also the final book before the tandem read, so I am going to do the tandem read for the first time ever. I've never done one before. If you didn't know, a tandem read is where you read 2 books at the same time and there's a log which tells you when to switch chapters. The reason why I'm doing that is because apparently the chapters are set in 2 different locations but at the same time period. So it's kind of like, you know how A Song of Ice and Fire has some of the perspectives split, so Feast for Crows has split the perspectives from Dance with Dragons. It's a similar thing where you've got half the characters in one and half the characters in the other. I personally didn't enjoy reading like that in A Song of Ice and Fire. I prefer all the characters to be in one book. So I'm going to do the tandem read for this so that I hopefully enjoy the next 2 books a lot better. I'll just read them simultaneously. So yeah, I'll maybe do some short content on preparing for that if you're interested. The next book that I want to read in July is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is book number 2 in the Gentleman Bastards sequence, following on from The Lies of Loch Lamora, which we did have as a book club pick earlier this year. I really enjoyed it, and so I'm going to continue the series with this one. I'm excited to see what happens to our characters. I'm not going to say who the characters are because it might spoil the end of Lies of Loch Lamora for you. I wanted to read this in June, but I just never got round to it. June was a really busy month, but I am going to pick it up as my next book after Queen of Shadows, and I'm really excited for it. So this is like a low fantasy story, but I really like how it's set in a location and a city that feels inspired by Venice. That it's surrounded by water, canals. A lot of the themes and like the tournaments and things that happened in the first book were all based within water, and so much juicy action happened at the end of the Lies of Loch Lamora. It was great, so I'm excited to see where this book takes us. The next book that I want to read in July is of course the book club book, because I run a book club on my YouTube channel. Have I said that already this video? Nope. Okay, you want to hear it again? This is the book for the book club. I don't mean to be talking about the book club so much in this video. It just feels natural because a lot of the books that we're talking about are relevant to it. But this is what you guys chose. So this is The Shadow of the Gods by Gwynne, and this is book 1 in the Blood Sawn. This says it's a Norse-inspired fantasy world. I'm really excited to read about that. It says it's an epic new fantasy. Why is there no blurb? There is no blurb, so it tells me absolutely nothing about it. There is actually no blurb. Why is there no blurb? How am I supposed to know what it's about when there is no blurb? It says it's action-packed and gritty. Cool. I love the front cover of this. This character right here is doing it for me. I believe that there's a couple of different POVs. I think it is like split into 2 characters maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong if you've read this. But I'm really excited to read this and see what I think. I'm even more excited to see what you think if you are reading this as part of the book club. The book club is free to join. All you have to do is read this book at some point in July, and then I am hosting a live stream on Sunday the 27th of July at 7 PM where we will chat about this book. I hope to see you there. I'm really excited to read this and to chat to you about it, and it's just really nice talking about books, isn't it? Next up on my July TBR is a book that I cannot believe I have not read yet, because how can I call myself a fantasy fan and have never read this book? This is an absolute classic. I feel like everybody should read it, and I've not even read it yet. The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, this is by far the biggest book I own. It is over 1,000 pages. I've been putting it off because of that, and I was initially going to read the whole book in one go. However, that scared me immensely. So, I'm going to read the different books within this. It is split into different books, so obviously you can get the individual books for Lord of the Rings, however I've just got it all in one edition. So I'm setting myself the task in July to just read the first book, which is The Fellowship of the Ring, and then I will read the next book in August and so forth until I complete the series or complete The Lord of the Rings. Because I think that that's going to make me more likely to read it, because if I'm breaking it up into manageable chunks, I am much more likely to start it rather than thinking about the whole 1,000 pages, because that feels very overwhelming for me. And actually that is a little tip for any big tasks that you are putting off or procrastinating on. Split them up into small manageable chunks. Focus on the step in front of you, not the whole staircase. That is what I'm doing for this. And I'm really excited to read it because obviously it's Lord of the Rings. So The Fellowship of the Ring is roughly about 400 pages, which is much more manageable for me to read in July. I'm excited to share with you my thoughts. I can't wait to talk about this. It is so influential. It's inspired a lot of fantasy as we know it today, and I can't believe I have never ever read it. And if you want, I may also do a reading vlog for this, reading Lord of the Rings for the first time, just to get my initial first impressions on it, and I just cannot wait to immerse myself in this world. And then the final book that I aim to read in July is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. So sorry if I have butchered that as well. This is a short and sweet book. The whole premise of this book sounds really intriguing to me. I've never read anything like this before. This is about a coffee shop that gives people the opportunity to time travel or to go back in time. So we follow the stories of 4 customers who decide to go back in time. They get to go back to certain events, so they get to go back and speak to people that perhaps they no longer are able to. They get to make different decisions to change the discourse of future events. However, there is a twist though, because there are risks with time travelling, in that they must come back to the present before their coffee gets cold. This is why I make my coffees so hot that they feel like a furnace burning the entirety of my mouth when I drink them. This is the reason why, because it gives me more time to time travel, guys. You should try it sometime. I think this book is going to be very thought-provoking. I think it's going to prompt deep questions about what would you do if you went back in time? Would you change anything? Would you speak to somebody who is no longer here? Would you make different decisions? Or would you just want to relive an event all over again? I just think it's going to be a very thought-provoking, pretty deep book, and it's also very tiny. I mean, look at the sizes of these books. I mean, they do say size doesn't matter. It's about what you do with it. So hopefully this will be small but impactful. So guys, those are all the books that I read in June and that I want to read in July. There's a lot. There are a lot here. Can I pick them all up, do you reckon? That looks like quite a lot for July. Am I kidding myself? Am I going to get through all of these? That does look like quite a lot, doesn't it? The reading slump that I had at the start of the year is well and truly over. I'm spending all my time reading again, so let's hope that I can get through with the majority of these books. Thank you so much for listening to me waffle on about books. It's what I love to do. This is a booktube channel. What do you expect? I would love to hear what books you want to read in July and what books you read in June as well. Make sure to share your thoughts and opinions. Have you read any of the books that I've talked about today? Like I mentioned earlier, I will leave a link for the Summoner in my description box because honestly, we need to support indie authors. Oh, and that's another thing. If you do have any indie author recommendations, please do let me know, because after reading The Summoner, I'm inspired to read more indie authors. And I just think that they're doing such a great job in such a difficult market right now. And honestly, the talent in these novels is actually ridiculous. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. I would also like to give a huge thank you to the members that are supporting my channel. You guys know who you are. You guys know you are very, very appreciated, but I'm never going to stop saying it. If you would like to have your name featured on screen at the end of each of my videos, or you just want to support the channel in any way, then please make sure to check out the channel memberships. There's some cool perks on there that I'm hoping you'll enjoy. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now. Happy reading.